This could be a week where we see a ton of upsets in college football. There are some point spreads that I don't even agree with. I think that we'll get into that in a second. But before we get to this week's upset alert, last week out of the 8 games, there were 2 of them. So again, this has played out pretty much throughout however many years we've been doing this. At least 2 of these games turned out to be upsets. Well, we had Memphis upset South Florida, and then we had Ole Miss upset Oklahoma. So those are the 2 upsets from last week's video. And again, if you're new, we picked the 8 games that we think are most likely to be upsets, where the point spread is more than a field goal. And historically, again, 2 of those 8 on average turn out to be upsets. So it's just a matter of figuring out which 2 of the games will be the upsets. But this week, I went through the games, and I make the rules. It's my video. We're doing 10 games this week, because I could not, there were just games I did not want to leave out of the video. So we're going to have 10 games instead of 8 this week, just because I think it's going to be one of those weeks. And again, some of these point spreads, I don't understand why they are what they are. And we'll talk about it as we go through each game. So let's start with, and we're going from least likely to most likely, in my opinion. We'll start with Georgia, Florida. This game is at 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Georgia favored by 7.5. That should tell you something right there. A 6-1 team versus a 3-4 team, and they're only favored by a little over a touchdown. That, again, Georgia, this is not a typical Georgia team. Georgia is not elite this year. We've seen them at times look elite, but they just have not put it together for 4 quarters in these games. And then you got Florida, who has been close against good competition. They've got an interim head coach, so you know they're going to come out and just, usually teams come out with a lot of energy when they have that. This is still a talented roster. This is a game in the preseason that I picked Florida to win, and I think they've got the roster to do it. Again, they haven't played well so far this season, obviously going 3-4. But this is definitely one to keep an eye on. This is not one I disagree with the spread on, though. I think that spread's probably about right. But I think there's enough here with a rivalry game. You can absolutely see an upset. Next, we've got Louisville at Virginia Tech. This one's at 3 o'clock Eastern time on the CW. Louisville favored by 10.5. So this is one I think the spread's too high. Louisville has not, they've looked pretty good this year, but they haven't really, other than that Miami game, they haven't had any games where they looked great. And then Virginia Tech is a team that's been playing better and better. They've beat, NC State. They've had some close losses to pretty good teams in the ACC. They are playing at home. They've been better since they fired their head coach. This is one that I think could be close, so absolutely keep an eye on this one. All right, next we've got Cincinnati at Utah. Game day is going to be there. This was at 10:15 Eastern time on ESPN. Utah favored by 9.5. Seems like a pretty big number. Cincinnati's played really good football so far this year. They've got some good wins on the resume already. I believe, was it Kansas they beat on the road? Trying to remember all these games. So they have gone on the road and won a pretty big game before. I think it's a pretty even matchup when you compare the 2 teams. I know Utah playing at home with game day there. It's, it feels like this is a team that should be able to win this game. But this is going to be an interesting one. Utah, Cincinnati. And was it game day at Utah, Texas Tech, or am I remembering that wrong? Maybe they weren't, but if they were, really, have they gone to Utah twice? Again, I'm trying to remember. I remember everyone in that game, and on game day, I remember everyone picked Utah, and then Texas Tech went and won the game. Could we see something similar here? Maybe, we'll see. All right, we got Georgia Tech, NC State, 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN2. Georgia Tech favored by 5.5 points. That's a spread that I do agree with. I think playing on the road, pressure starting to build as you're undefeated this late in the season, starting to talk about the college football playoff and all that. NC State's going to be a team with nothing to lose here. They'll come out, play tough. This should be a pretty good game, and again, possibly an upset. All right, next we got Miami at SMU. This one's at noon Eastern time on ESPN. Miami favored by 12.5. That's just a huge number. I disagree with that one. Miami on the road again. This is a pretty good SMU team. I know they just lost to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is actually pretty good this year. I think we've seen that. Remember, they took Georgia Tech to overtime and really had a chance to win that game. And Miami, I don't know about Miami. They look so good. Then they look bad against Louisville. And then last week they start off looking terrible, down 7-0 almost at halftime against Stanford. And then they put it together and played really well. So I don't know for sure what we've got from this Miami team, but I think playing on the road against a pretty good SMU team, this one has a chance to be close. And if Carson Beck throws more interceptions, we could see an upset. Next, we've got USC at Nebraska. This one's at 7:30 Eastern Time on NBC. USC favored by 6.5. That's a big number. On the road, if it was at home, I would agree, but on the road, yeah, I don't know. USC's been really inconsistent this year. At times they've looked really good, times they've looked not so good. And the same thing can be said for Nebraska. I know that Minnesota game, the offensive line just got destroyed. So that could be a problem for them. But, they did bounce back and win last week. But they've also played some close games against pretty bad teams. So maybe that's a good spread, a fair spread here. But just playing at home, I just think if Nebraska plays really well, they definitely have a chance for an upset. Next, we got Texas Tech at Kansas State. This one's at 3:30 Eastern Time on Fox. Texas Tech favored by 7. Kansas State has been, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, this team has slowly been getting better and better and better. They've won some games. They've played some close games against good teams. It's a better team than it was at the beginning of the season. You've got Texas Tech now. Baron Morton, I believe, is going to play, but he's been banged up. He's had injury problems. Will Hammond is out. So if Morton can't finish this game, you got a big quarterback problem there at Texas Tech. And so, yeah, I think all of those things could come into play here, and we possibly could see an upset in Manhattan, Kansas. Next, we've got Wake Forest at Florida State, another one where I don't understand the spread at all. This game is at 7:30 Eastern Time on the ACC Network. Wake Forest is 5-2. Florida State's 3-4. Wake Forest has probably looked like the better team, although Florida State has lost some close games. But still, I think it's a pretty even matchup. Putting Florida State as a almost double-digit favorite, I don't understand that. This one, in my opinion, shouldn't even be on this video because I think the spread should be less than a field goal. This is a toss-up game. I don't understand that spread. If Florida State continues to play the way they've been playing, Wake Forest is a capable team, and they have proven that, coming off of a big win over SMU. So this is one absolutely that could be an upset. And then finally, we've got Arizona State at Iowa State. This one is at 11. Well, that's an odd time here. 1 o'clock Eastern Time on TNT. That's why it's an odd time. It's TNT. Both teams 5-3. Iowa State's favored by 7. Oh man, yeah, this is another one. I don't understand why Iowa State is favored here. This team's had a lot of injuries. They are not the same team we saw at the beginning of the season. Arizona State coming off of a tough loss. They're going to be hungry. I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, Arizona State, I believe, will win this game. So yeah, that one, definitely the spread. I don't understand that one at all. If you're going to favor Iowa State, I think it needs to be 2 or 3 points. So there were definitely some point spreads this week that I just did not agree with. Actually, we have one more game. This is going a little longer than normal because, again, we did 10 games. This one's at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Arkansas is favored by 4.5. This is another one I don't understand. Mississippi State has clearly looked like the better team this year. They've lost some close games, but Arkansas has really been struggling lately. This is a pick'em game. This is a toss-up game. Yeah, absolutely, we could see an upset here. Mississippi State definitely due for a win, although you could say the same thing for Arkansas. They've lost close games as well. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't favor Mississippi State here, but I would at least have that point spread at like 1, because this is one, like flip a coin. Either team could win here, absolutely. So those are the upset picks, or not picks, but the upset alert games for Week 10. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.